Next we have Kira Willis.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Kira Willis. I think we need to start before we do anything and discuss what the purpose of education is. The purpose of education is to graduate self-sufficient, independent people who contribute to society and who can compete in the American marketplace and in the marketplace in the world. And we need to discuss the 4 different prongs of education and what the superintendent can do. We are working with the governor's vision, the legislative dollars, working with the State Board of Education, and also with local school partnerships. And then we have 3 different ways in which to address what the state school superintendent can do and what I want to do. I want to address the quality basic education funding. It is antiquated. It hasn't been fully funded since 1985, and it's time we look to other states and their funding formulas so that we can look and see different ways to streamline what we're doing here in Georgia. The next thing that I would like to do is ensure as much educational freedom for our students as possible, whether that be charter schools, whether that be blended learning with brick and mortar and virtual, whether it's homeschooling, whatever works for our children and the families of our children is what's best for our children. And we need to remember that and ensure that that is what's going on in Georgia. And then the last is fidelity. We have lots of laws being passed around the state and being passed around the nation, and we need to make sure, A, that we do not go into those laws lightly. We are very clear that those laws are best for our students, and then once we do have those laws passed, that we ensure that they are passed down to our local school boards and our local schools with fidelity. So the purpose of education, the legislative vision, and the governor's vision, the legislative dollars, and then we talk about funding, freedom, and then fidelity for our education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mitch Johnson.
Good evening, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. Just a little bit about my background. I have an undergraduate degree from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I have a master's degree in education, and I have a law degree from the University of Kentucky. I spent 21 years in the U.S. Army as an Army Medical Service officer. I spent 15 years in a family business with my brother and my dad that we started from scratch and built it up to over 1,700 employees. We were in 36 states, 7 foreign countries, and I was the CEO at the time when we sold that business. Currently I'm a partner with my brother in an investment company where we also own a logistics company. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing. I got 3 great kids. They're grown, off the payroll. The last one's hanging in there, off the payroll, that have all went through public schools. I sat on the Marietta City School Council for 4 years. I've been a coach for over 30 years, and I'm currently a community coach at Wheeler High School where I coach wrestling and I coach football. And I will tell you, I see these kids over the years, and I've been involved with kids for so long. And at Wheeler High School, those kids look at you, you can see it in their eyes. They want to achieve. They want to do better. And I'm driven by seeing them and wanting to make it right and make it better for them. Every Georgian kid deserves the opportunity for a good quality education. And I think with my background and my mix of skills, a little business background and my education background, I feel like I'm eminently qualified to run the Department of Education and work collaboratively with the Governor's Office, our Board of Education, and our General Assembly. Thank you.
Cheryl Dawes.
As he said, my name is Cheryl Dawes, and I just recently got into the race. Like you, probably most of you belong to the Cherokee Republican Party. I want to make sure that a Republican gets elected to this position, so any one of us will do, as long as you vote for that person in November and not a Democrat. But there's more to being a Republican than just voting Republican. I've been involved with the party for about 18 years. I served as a state committee representative for the 6th district, and I was a Gwinnett party chairman. So I think that you don't have to worry about if it's a name only or if I have ever been affiliated with another party. I like to say that my 3 times great-grandfather was a Republican before he was a Whig, so I think I was just born that way. Also, it's one thing to just say you're a PTA member and pay money. It's another to be actively involved. PTA was founded as a lobbying group to work for One Voice, All Children in the state of Georgia, or nationally for that matter. And so I've had the pleasure of going down for 18 years to talk to the House legislators and the Senate, as well as the House and the education committees, and build some nice relationships there and have a pretty good understanding. I must say, though, when I came in to start doing this 18 years ago, the Democrats were in charge. The Republicans are in charge, and I haven't seen us move off of Space 46 or 49 yet. So I would really like to get my teeth into this and see what needs to be done. But federal government is not the answer. I think that in the Republican Party, we like smaller government, we like lower taxes, we like strong family values, and all of these mean local control. I went to school, and some of you in this room, I can tell, went to school before there was a federal Department of Education. And I haven't seen anything go right since they got involved. So consider voting for Cheryl Dawes.
Thank you very much. Next is Alan Porter.
Thank you. My name is Alan Fort. I've been in the business of public education in the state of Georgia for 38 years. I've served all over this state: Southwest Georgia, Southeast Georgia, North Georgia, East Georgia, West Georgia. I have the experience that no other candidate here has about seeing all of Georgia, because remember, this is the state school superintendent of all of Georgia, somebody that knows where every place is that calls you for your service. I've been a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, a principal. I worked for the DOE, and now I'm a superintendent in Quitman County Schools in Georgetown, Georgia. And yes, I even drove a bus when I taught school many years ago. It had a clutch in it. Okay? Through the years, I've had the honor as a principal, assistant principal, and superintendent to shake the hands of thousands and thousands of young men and young women who have walked across the stage, graduating from the high schools in the state of Georgia. Fabulous young men and young women who have a great life ahead of them, because we have done a good job in the state of Georgia, but we've got a better job to do lying ahead of us, and I feel that's why I'm the most qualified candidate. There are 4 things that we have to do in this state right now. We have to communicate from the Twin Towers across the street to the state capitol, to our governor, General Assembly, Lieutenant Governor, the state board, and make sure things work right there. We have to have our children to graduate with skills when they walk across the stage to get that diploma. We have to make sure that our funding is equitable, and we know where it comes from, and we know where it's going. And we have to go back to teaching and learning, ladies and gentlemen. When you get inside the room, we've got kids, we've got a teacher, and we've got to simplify teaching and learning to make sure that the kids are being taught and motivated to learn. I look forward to being your next state school superintendent, and look forward to the support of everybody in this room, including my foes here tonight. Thank y'all, and have a great evening.
Next is Mike Buck.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for hosting this event. My name is Mike Buck, and I want to be your next state school superintendent. I'm really running on a platform of the 3 C's: character, my personal character, and how I've lived my life, but also the character that we have to develop in our young people. I'm running on credentials, and mine will closely mirror what Mr. Ford just had to share. This is my 31st year in education. I've served at every level. I've been an elementary principal, I've been a high school principal, virtually every role in the central office, I've filled that. For the past 3 years, I've had the pleasure of serving at the Georgia Department of Education as the Chief Academic Officer, and lastly, as the Chief of Staff. I believe that one of the best single predictors of future success is past performance, and I welcome people to check my lifelong record of success at every one of those levels. I'm also committed to our young people, to every single young person being successful. I've got 3 school-aged children. They're not off the payroll yet. I know you're looking at this old man and thinking, how does he have school-aged children? That's another story. I adopted twin girls from China. They are now 10. Tomorrow is their gotcha day. That's the day we celebrate like a birthday. They came into my life. Shortly after that, we adopted my son. I live the standards with homework every day. You hear me? Nobody's going to work harder than somebody that's got children in the system. So I walk the walk. I'm also convinced that we have got to be good with our academic standards, but there's a curriculum of life that gets lost in the shuffle. We're going to get held accountable for the standards, and that's okay. We should be. But the curriculum of life do the boys and girls who have been entrusted to our care become the kind of people we want living in our neighborhoods, taking care of us when we're older, dating our sons and daughters. We can do things to help that curriculum of life. Thank you very much. I look forward to serving you.
Thank you. Next is Nancy Jester.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for coming out. I'm glad to be here tonight. I hope that by the end of the evening, you say, I'm supporting Nancy Jester because she's focused on education in the state of Georgia. You're not going to hear any platitudes or cliches or anything like that. Everyone has great intentions, and so do I. But I've got a plan that attacks the structural failures of our state, and we know they exist. How do we know they exist? Because every single state that borders Georgia has a higher graduation rate than Georgia. And every state that borders Georgia spends less per pupil to get that. They are doing so because they have the best practices that push the money into the classroom and away from the bloated bureaucracies. So when you leave here and you think of Nancy, you think about my focus plan. That's my 5 principles, the 5 things I want to get done. Financial accountability and integrity, opportunities and choice. We have an 8-track education system in an iPod world. We've got to modernize. Consequences for failure at the district level. We have to hold bureaucracies accountable and not just focus on accountability for teachers and the testing, but also for the big guys who make the 6-figure salaries. We need to hold them accountable. We need to upgrade our funding formula. You know, the 80s called and they want their funding formula back. We've got to do something about that, and I want to work with the legislature to make that happen. Real per pupil funding that is portable for the choices that children and families are going to make for their education. And then last, strong standards, and that means common sense, not Common Core. We're Republicans. We know that centralization doesn't work, it doesn't innovate. And what I'll encourage you all to do now is, if you want to text me to 22828, text Super Jester to 22828. You'll get a text from me, and you can enter your email and be on my email list and keep in touch with the campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Richard Woods.
Okay, thank you. Again, education is personal, and it's personal because it's dealing with your kids. Now tonight, I just briefly want to share in summary, a 4-point plan in which I believe will help bring Georgia where it needs to be educationally. First of all, my first solution is that we need to be child-focused. I mean, the children are, our most valued, entity here. The group that we have, our kids, are important. And because they are important, what we need to do is we need to personalize education and not standardize education. One size fits all does not work. We know that. And so in doing so, what we do, we have to expand our course offerings, our graduation options for our kids, across the board, to give them that opportunity to succeed. Also, in doing so, we must look at our teachers. They're the ones that directly have an impact on our students. They're the ones that work with our students. So we need to give them the adequate time to teach, cut out some of the paperwork, the redundancy of data collecting and testing, so that they can address our kids. Secondly, we need to look at, concentrate on the classroom by giving our kids a solid foundation based on reading, writing, and math by the time they leave, 5th grade. That we will provide them with the foundation needed to succeed in life. Thirdly, common sense over Common Core. One of the things that I look at, and has been part of my platform from day one, we have to make sure that we do not outsource Georgia education. It is not for sale. That is a point that we cannot negotiate with. And lastly, as we look at this, we need to make sure that we are cost effective. As we do so, that means unfunded mandates, we need to stop, because you at the local level are the ones that have to pay for it. And with that, with unfunded mandates, if we can't afford it, we don't need it. And that's simple how I run my business. It's very simple and plain. Also, we need to have a complete audit of the Department of Education. Yes, education is important to you. It is personal, but it is also personal to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final introduction is Mary Kay Bacall.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Kay Bacall, and the reason why I'm running for state school superintendent is because I did a study of the math standards, and I found that they were 1 to 2 years behind our former standards. I'm a math education professor. I'm also a professor of education in the fields of science and technology. I want to tell you about the Educational Freedom Coalition. This is our little bookmark. And what I am here for is freedom for students. The first thing we need to realize is that the way the system is set up currently, students are not being taught at their instructional level. They're being taught at the instructional level that the state standards say they should be taught at. But if they're above that level, their needs aren't being met. If they're below that level, their needs aren't being met. That's why we have the cheating scandal, because students are not considered. Everyone cannot just be the same. I'm also for freedom for parents. Parents need to be able to have an input in what their kids learn in school. And so right now, parents don't have any voice. I'm for freedom for teachers. Teachers are really being squeezed because sometimes the students don't show a lot of respect for the teachers. And then at the same time, you have the administration telling teachers they have to do this certain thing, this certain way. And teachers know it's not working with their kids, but they have to do it anyway. Freedom for taxpayers, so they don't have to fund educational initiatives that they don't support, because this is what's happening. Freedom for school board members, because I was on the Fayette County School Board, and I could not make one single decision about curriculum, testing, or standards. And that was just wrong. Freedom for colleges of education and teacher education, we have to do Common Core too. So anywhere I look, Common Core is coming at me, and I'm coming back at it saying we need freedom.
Thank you, thank you. Definitely want to thank everyone who participated in the forum. I very much apologize for not being able to be there. Unfortunately, I had strep throat and you couldn't have understood anything I said anyway. But I appreciate this opportunity. I want to introduce myself. I'm Ashley Bell. I'm from Hall County. I am a former county commissioner. I'm a current charter school chair at our local schools. I've also been a charter school chair of a middle school in our area. This race for me is one that's very personal. One that my wife and I took a long time to decide about where we thought the future of education should go in this state. For 4 years on the county commission, I was a tried and very proven conservative. I took a county commission like every other county commission, much like the one you have in Bartow and in Cherokee counties, that was too big. That we took an opportunity to look at our budget, and I was able to put conservative principles to work and shrink the size of government by 15%. Now that's not easy, folks, but what it does do is it forces you as a candidate, as an elected official, to look at a budget and say, look, here's what we have to do to shrink the size of government. And that's something I've done, and I think that's important to look at candidates' credentials when it comes to what they've done personally. As far as charter schools are concerned, for the last 10 years, a decade, my wife and I have run a nonprofit that has done nothing but lead the way in helping kids find pathways to success. And that for us, that meant we created an academic intervention program that in our first 8 weeks took 48 students who were failing, who were on tracks to not graduate. And we made them all very successful, passing students, and they all graduated. And that's something we've been doing for the last 10 years. And as I joined the charter school in my local community, I realized that choice matters. And hopefully that you see in this election that you have a candidate that has elected official experience, charter school experience, working with teachers in our classroom, making results, and making sure that our children are put first in every way.